welcome to the launch of A Little Book of Doggerel. We are so excited to be sharing this with you, and whether you're joining us live right now or you're catching up some other time, we're just so happy you joined us, so thank you for joining in the fun. We have a fantastic launch lined up. I'll be catching up with author Gail Halley and illustrator Sue McLeod, finding out all about their creative process, the journey they've been on to get to this point, and their hopes and dreams for this book. We'll also be joined by special guest Adam Jackson, who'll be doing a couple of readings from the book, as well as the author herself will also be doing an equal reading. Before we start this evening, I just want to say a huge thanks to everybody who has already pre-ordered a copy of A Little Book of Doggerel. It means so much as a small business to see your orders coming in, but not just that, to see your support and encouragement for brand new upcoming authors, illustrators and poets. So thank you so much for that. If you haven't already got your copy of A Little Book of Doggerel, you can now. It is out now. It is officially launched this evening. Head to positivepoetry.org and you can get your copy there, as well as a free gift from us, which is a beautiful illustrated postcard of a Doggerel poem, which is a perfect addition if you are buying this book as a gift this Christmas. So without further ado, I am thrilled to welcome Adam Jackson with his reading of Charlie, Freddie and Bill.
Charlie, Freddie and Bill. It's easy to give them those sausagey names, with their little long bodies and their tiny wee legs. But there's much more to dachshunds than just to compare them with something to go with fried bacon and eggs. Charles Chipolata's folks came from Italia. He has velvety ears and the softest brown eyes. Though not sporty, he's fittish, and even quite skittish. Now I am naturalised British, though once I was foreign, he sighs. Fred Frankfurter's German. He can preach quite a sermon on his friends and the badgers they hunt. He's bigger and stronger and naturally longer than Charlie, who's mini, though not, I'd say, skinny. And Charlie is nobody's runt. Bill Banger's not skittish, and nor is he fittish, rather he's fattish and definitely British. You'll find him all over, north, south, east and west, at barbecues and breakfast, loved by the guests. Charles Chipolata, though small, has the heart a lion would be proud to own. Big Billy Banger can always be trusted, cheery, solid and not one to moan. Strong Fred loves his cousins, for though they may vary, some smooth and some hairy, they're all of them Daxies, Javol.
Thank you so much. We have more from the amazing Adam Jackson straight after this interview with author Gail Halley and illustrator Sue McLeod. Gail, your book's out, and Mum. So introducing Gail Halley, the writer, the author of A Little Book of Doggerel, and Sue McLeod, who also happens to be my mum, illustrator of A Little Book of Doggerel. So it's amazing to have you both here today, and of course Millie, who does feature in the book at the beginning. So she's a bit of a celebrity dog. So welcome, Millie. So just to dive straight in, we've got a few questions for you. And this one is for both of you. Could you just give us a bit of context and just briefly tell us how you two actually met?
Well, I'd been in Jerusalem for a year. I think by then I'd started working in research, medical research at University Medical School at Hadassah. And then Gail arrived January 1981. 4 decades ago.
Yes, well, yes, all of that. I arrived in early 1981. It was a wonderful time there, and it was lovely. I came back to the UK well before you did, but we've always kept in touch.
Did you, either of you, ever consider something like this early on in meeting? Like, did you ever think one day we'll be collaborating on a project like this?
No. Never in my head, no.
I love how things form like that. I think that's amazing. So Gail, the next question is specifically for you. When did you actually first start writing poetry?
Well, actually, I didn't start writing poetry till relatively recently, probably in the last 15 years or so. I used to sometimes write I mean, not that often, but I used to sometimes write short stories, always about dogs or horses. I do vaguely remember winning a prize when I was about 11 for a short story for a magazine called Riding, which I'm sure is long since defunct. Just that I did have a go at short stories, but poetry about 15 years ago.
Okay, that's amazing. It's amazing that it's such a recent thing for you, because you've written so many incredible poems. We've got your beautiful book here, A Little Book of Doggerel.
It's just such the book, the illustration on the front just makes the book, doesn't it? It's lovely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The terrier on the front. A terrier, is it? That's correct, isn't it? Yeah.
Lovely.
Oh, it's amazing. Well done, Sue, aka Mum. Yeah, so I believe there's 26 dog poems in here. You've written so many poems about different breeds of dogs and picked up on their personalities, their quirks, and all their different characteristics. To have written something so intricately about so many, have you owned that many dogs? Have you been walking with people's dogs? Can you tell us a bit about how you got to know so many different dogs?
I think I've always been interested in different breeds of animals. I mean, you're far too young to know, Jane, but when we were young, there was a wonderful series of books called The Observer. There were loads of them. And I had lots of those as a child. And I used to be really interested looking at all the different pictures of different dogs and trying to identify whenever I sort of met a dog, identifying I'm always going up to people and asking about their dogs. Some people do that with children. I do it with dogs.
I love that. I can imagine you doing it now. I think this book is going to be such an enjoyable read for people who have their own dogs or have family with dogs, and they can pick up on those funny little traits they have and their little personalities, and that's going to be like a really lovely thing for people, for dog owners especially, to be able to enjoy that with you, like reading it. So Sue, aka Mum, the next question is for you. You've been an artist for years, and you've got a huge wealth of experience as an artist. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what it's been like in the transition into this new area of creativity as an illustrator?
Well, I only really started learning to draw and paint when we settled in this country. I quickly was drawn to botanical art for a number of reasons. And I think also going into botanical art really requires a lot of accuracy in drawing and skill in watercolor. And I think that really helped me drive up skill and enjoyment too. I really loved it. And then gradually over the years, I started including animals and other living things, and particularly wildlife as well. And that's really what I do mostly now, is wildlife and various other animals, sheep and so on. So, and of course dogs. And yes, so when Gail started talking about her poems and that she was thinking of putting them into a book and needed an illustrator, I sort of gingerly put my hand up and said, can I try? Oh. So, and it's been great. It's certainly very different from more different than I expected, but it's been quite a steep learning curve, but a very enjoyable one. And I feel like now, I have more ideas of what can be done. The way I'd like to start again, but the book has happened, and we're very happy with it. I think.
I'm really glad that you gingerly put your hand up. It just shows what can happen if you step out and volunteer yourself for something creative like that, because I'm really happy about it as a publisher, but I'm sure Gail as a writer is delighted as well. Such beautiful illustrations in this book that you've done. And like you said, they involve so much intricacy and they're so detailed, and you have really captured what Gail has said about each of their personality traits and their quirks, and even in the eyes, you've just captured so many details. I think it's absolutely amazing. How many are there altogether? How many dog illustrations did you do in the end in here?
I think there are 40 illustrations, comprising 43 dogs, 1 cat, and people and parts of people.
That's such a huge accomplishment. So for that many, can you tell us just a little bit about your process, just as an artist, even what you start off with a blank canvas and then what happens next? How do you get from a blank page to this beautiful image of a dog? Could you just talk us through that for any aspiring artists?
Well, long before I get to the blank canvas, it starts in the head, and of course I read the poems several times, and which was very enjoyable, and then start getting ideas and pictures. Well, because we don't currently have a dog at home, it's, I can't observe directly from life. I've been dependent on finding good reference photos, and some have been Gail's, some have been mine, and also pixabay.com has provided many. And I start trawling through all the pictures to try and find something that I can adapt, or something that will match with the words of the poem. And sometimes that's been easy, and sometimes that's taken quite a long time. But as I say, it all starts, in the thinking. And once I've got my reference picture and an idea of what I'm going to do, then I get the paper out, not canvas, because it's watercolor. And I start drawing, and the drawing is the longest part, because that has to be really right. And the painting takes far less time, but it's also very enjoyable. So that's my process.
That's amazing. That's really interesting to just find out. Gail, the next question is specifically for you. Could you, same sort of thing, could you describe your writing process, if you could put it into a step-by-step process? Is there a particular dog that has inspired all of this as well? Where do you, obviously you draw your inspiration from dogs, but is there a particular one that started this?
Anything can spark it, actually. I mean, for example, I was out walking one day, it was in the summer, and I suddenly saw this little, I think it was a fox terrier, jumping up and down in the long grass. And it was just such a wonderful picture, because they're such bright, sort of naughty little dogs. And it was just so attractive. And the line of little dog leaping in the long grass just sort of came into my head. And I didn't really know what to do with it. So I kind of made one verse of it and thought, well, it doesn't really mean anything. And then it just gradually, I thought, 4 seasons. So there's always something. I mean, there's one called Millie Sniff a Lot, and that's because I was taking Millie out one day, and she does sniff a lot. And sometimes I say, for goodness sake, can we just walk a bit? Because she wants to sniff everything. And I said, you are Millie Sniff a Lot. That's what started Millie and Molly. So it can be, actually it all started with the one called To a Young Dog, and that was because I was actually on a retreat day, and I just heard something on the news about, and I recognise that often these things are wrongly reported, but it was reported that a family had an 11-year-old Labrador they'd had since it was a puppy, and they were tired of it, and they were trading it in to get another puppy. And it sort of filled me with rage, because I thought, it's fine, do that with your furniture or your kitchen or your car. But to do that with a dog, it just, I don't know, I just felt enraged. I can remember walking up and down in the room where I was, and the words just began to come into my head. So that, I mean, it's a slightly sentimental poem in a way, but I did just think, you know, the stages that dogs go through, and it ends with, you know, when you're an older dog, I love you even more. And actually, that is what happened with the dog I had at the time. I really did love her as she got older. She didn't become a nuisance or a smelly or, you know, whatever. So I just felt, I feel really upset at that notion of a dog being, I mean, I've had to rehome a dog, and I know how awful that can be. And for many people, it's absolute agony. And I'm so with, you know, I so understand that. But I think there can also be rather a callousness about it. And that was what I was really addressing in that poem. It was, you know, for better, for worse, it was very much in the heart. And some of them flow and others take, you know, hard work and take ages. I keep redoing and rewriting them. And, you know, you're still never really satisfied, but at some point you just have to call it a day.
That's amazing. I love that they come from real life situations as well. There really is something very sentimental about that the readers can know that the author has taken this from a real life situation.
Yes.
Just a light bulb moment whilst you're out walking the dog. And if this book can achieve anything you wanted, anything and everything, what would you want that to be?
It got me thinking that the book is about dogs, but it's also to some extent about God, and not so overtly. But I'm reminded of something that C.S. Lewis said, which was that, I'm pretty sure it was C.S. Lewis, it usually is, what we need is not more Christian books, more books written by Christians. And I know that when I was contemplating this, I talked to somebody who led workshops on Christian writers, and I said, you know, all I seem to get is books about, you know, ideas about dogs. It doesn't seem very spiritual compared with what so many other people were producing. But he was lovely. He said, if that's what you're being given, you know, they're part of God's creation. You love them, you know, you understand them a bit, you know, go for it. And I just felt that was so encouraging. So I suppose if people read this and think, well, what's God got to do with it? My answer would be, God's got to do with everything. And if you are a Christian, he's in every part of your life. We don't have compartments where we leave God out. At least we seek not to. And so, you know, if it leads to talking about our faith at all in any way, that would be great. But what I also hope is that people won't say, oh, I don't like this book because it mentions God. So, you know, which could happen, which is fair enough, but I'd be sorry if that was the case. That's really,
I can really appreciate how important dogs are to people. And as you said, you know, they are best friends. And, you know, all my artwork has been just really an appreciation of God's creation and all living things. And, you know, reading Gail's poems and how she's just so observant of their characteristics and traits that really makes one appreciate what wonderful animals they are and how good for us they are. So yes, I just hope, you know, people will really enjoy this book because it's lighthearted and they'll be able to identify, if they are dog owners themselves, with some of the things that happen and that are described. And I just hope people will really be able to enjoy it. And
That's beautiful. Thank you. Both really beautiful responses to that. And this will make an incredible gift book for anyone who loves dogs or has a pet dog or a connection with a dog. Yeah, an absolutely amazing gift. And at the moment there is a special offer, isn't there? We're doing for anyone who's been pre-ordering or buying this evening, and potentially for the next week as well, we might carry this offer on, to get a free postcard as well, which will have a beautiful illustration and an extract of your poem, Gail. So that will be a delightful thing for someone to receive, and then they'll be able to give the postcard along with the book as a gift, or frame the postcard, whatever they want. So that's amazing. So thank you so much, both of you, for your time and for just sharing all of that with us. That was so interesting. A Little Book of Doggerel is out now. You can buy it at positivepoetry.org, and yeah, we hope it gets into your hands soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
The Other Side of Dolly. A little border terrier came to live with us, sad, homesick and unsettled, but oh so very sweet. Leave me alone, I don't want your fuss. So we loved her, walked her, fed her, and let her find her feet. Slowly she responded to our care, and soon she dared to curl up on my chair. No longer lost and alone, rather the dog with a bone, a little dog with attitude, always funny, sometimes good. Things changed, and Dolly couldn't stay. She left us on a bright spring day, she, sad, bewildered, not to blame. I, her Judas, filled with shame, for I had let her down. Back home the days seemed long and grey, no balls to throw, no games to play, since Dolly went away. But things in life don't stay the same, and Dolly's found another home. She's safe and loved and understood, our terrier with attitude. The sun still shines, the bees still hum, the other side of Dolly, and I can laugh, no longer numb, with grief at Dolly's going. But sometimes, when I'm in the park, I see a little boarder playing, his bright, bright eyes and short, sharp bark. My heart leaps back 6 months or more, to Dolly waiting by the door. The little dog who stayed a while, the little dog who made us smile, and brought joy into our lives.
Thank you so much, Adam, for a really moving reading from the book. So don't forget, if you haven't got your copy already, please buy it now. Go to positivepoetry.org and you will get a free postcard, which they are limited, by the way, so get your orders in soon. So now, the author herself with her reading of chart topper Le Bulldog.
So this poem is called Chart Topper Le Bulldog. A plump little Frenchman is topping the charts. He's ousted Lab, Yorkie and Cockapoo. How has he captured all those British hearts, and right in the middle of Brexit too? Monsieur has developed a fine line in snoring, as well as in panting, snuffling and sniffling. But his owner said, my dog's never boring, and any annoyance is merely trifling. I'm told, ce petit cost a great deal of money, but his fans say he's worth every euro. From the time he arrives, he's unfailingly funny. It's laughter each day with their little hero. They couldn't care less he's a couch pomme de terre. In fact, it's all part of his Gallic charm. And when you leave him, he turns not a hair, as long as he's comfortable, cozy and warm.
Well, that closes this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed this launch, please do give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, leave comments in the box below. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget, most of all, to order your copy now, positivepoetry.org. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.